Welcome back to the Leading with AI podcast. Great to have you with us again as we take another deep dive into the ideas shaping how we lead with artificial intelligence.
Good to be back.
Today, we're cracking open a really insightful guide, the book Intelligent Advantage. And we're focusing on something pretty fundamental, how AI isn't just tweaking businesses anymore. It's actually transforming the very core of strategy, operations, leadership. The whole picture, really.
That's right. We're moving way beyond seeing AI as just, a tool for automation or efficiency gains, though it does that too.
Right. The book argues it's becoming a core engine for future success, for staying relevant. And it suggests this is creating, well, a widening gap.
A really significant gap, yeah. Between organizations that are leaning into this, really embracing the transformation, and those that might get left behind.
So our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the most vital insights from the book, showing you why this gap exists, and crucially, what the book says you need to know, what you need to do to make sure you're on the right side of it.
And it's a powerful framing, because the book doesn't just wave its hands and say AI is important. It actually provides, frameworks and steps for how to make it strategically important in your context.
Embedding it right into the DNA of how you operate and compete.
Exactly. It's about building intelligent capabilities deep inside the organization.
Okay, let's unpack this. The book jumps right in, establishing that this isn't something you can just watch from the sidelines. It demands active leadership right from the top.
Yes, the executive AI imperative, as the book calls it.
Right. Chapter 2 hammers this home immediately, doesn't it?
It really does. The core message is the C-suite absolutely cannot delegate the AI revolution. It's just too fundamental. Executive ownership isn't just, a nice-to-have best practice. The book frames it as completely non-negotiable.
And why is that? Why can't you just hand it off to the CTO or a chief AI officer?
Yeah. Well, because AI touches everything. Think about it. It impacts your long-term strategy, how your operations run literally minute to minute, how you engage with your customers, how you manage talent, your entire risk profile. It's pervasive.
Okay.
So you need that holistic top-level perspective. You need that senior championing to drive successful adoption and integration across all the different silos and functions of the business. Without it, initiatives tend to stall or stay isolated.
That makes sense. So if you're in that C-suite or maybe reporting into it, what does the book actually say you need to do? What are the practical steps to get ready to really own this?
It lays out a pretty clear path, actually, and it starts with education. Educating yourselves, the entire C-suite, and crucially, the board as well.
And this isn't about learning Python, right?
No, definitely not about learning to code. It's about structured programs designed for leaders, covering the core AI concepts. What is machine learning? What is NLP? What can it realistically do? Understanding the strategic implications specifically for your industry, your business model. Exploring relevant use cases. See how others are using it. Getting a solid handle on data fundamentals, because data is the absolute fuel for AI. And really importantly, understanding the ethical considerations and the changing talent landscape. What skills do you need? Where do you find them?
So we're talking about more than just a quick PowerPoint overview at the board meeting, real structured education, like executive AI academies or maybe board boot camps.
Exactly. The book mentions exactly those kinds of formal programs, but it also stresses the value of things like curated resources, maybe tailored expert briefings that are really specific to your business context and challenges.
Okay.
The goal is to build a robust shared foundational fluency, so that when strategic decisions involving AI come up, and they will, increasingly everyone around that top table understands the basics, the potential, the risks. They're speaking the same language.
Speaking the same language.
Yeah.
That's key. What else besides formal learning?
Well, beyond the formal stuff, it suggests creating executive peer learning circles or dedicated AI councils within the leadership team itself.
Ah, like a safe space for leaders to figure this out together.
Pretty much. A space where senior leaders can openly discuss AI's impact on their areas, share learnings, both successes and, importantly, failures from early initiatives, help steer the overall strategy, and collectively navigate the inevitable challenges that come up.
I really like that idea. Peer learning makes so much sense for something this new and transformative. You're all facing similar hurdles, probably asking similar questions. Sharing those experiences must accelerate understanding.
Definitely. And then there's bridging the gap between the, let's say, the high-level strategy side and the deep technical aspects. How do leaders get a feel for the tech without becoming experts.
Yeah, how do you do that?
The book advocates for something called reverse mentoring.
Reverse mentoring.
Yeah, imagine a senior executive, maybe someone who didn't grow up digitally native, spending structured time being mentored by a perhaps more junior employee who really gets emerging tech, data science, AI tools.
Huh. Flipping the usual model.
Exactly. It helps demystify the technology in a very practical, personal way. Builds empathy, too. And alongside that, cross-functional exposure is vital. Leaders spending quality time with the data science teams, maybe visiting AI labs or even visiting other companies that are further along their AI journey.
So getting out of the boardroom and seeing it in action, getting a feel for the technology, even if you're not the one building the models yourself.
Precisely. It builds intuition. And to make sure all this communication is effective, the book highlights the need to develop a must-know AI lexicon for leaders.
A glossary.
Essentially, yeah. A concise, agreed-upon glossary of the essential AI terms, focusing specifically on those relevant to business strategy, operations, and governance. Not the super deep tech jargon, but the terms needed for informed discussion.
That seems incredibly practical, so everyone's on the same page, using terms consistently. Avoids misunderstandings that could derail things.
Totally. Misunderstandings around terms like model accuracy or bias can lead to really poor decisions if people interpret them differently.
Okay, what other concrete steps does the book recommend for getting the executive team ready?
There are a couple of other sort of mandates it suggests are crucial. Firstly, requiring AI impact assessments for all major strategic initiatives.
An AI impact assessment for everything major.
Oh, for significant new ventures, big investments, new business lines, yeah. Before it gets the green light, leadership needs to explicitly ask, how could AI enhance this initiative?
Yeah.
What data would we need? What are the potential risks, ethical, security, operational? What new capabilities might we need to build or acquire to leverage AI here?
So it forces AI thinking right into the standard business case process, not as an afterthought.
Exactly. It embeds AI consideration proactively into the fabric of strategy formation. It forces that crucial strategic linkage from the start.
Makes sense. And the second mandate?
Finally, it's about integrating AI fluency into leadership development programs and even potentially into performance metrics for leaders.
Signaling that this is now part of the job description for a leader.
Precisely. Signal clearly throughout the organization that understanding and, more importantly, leveraging AI for value creation is now part of what defines a successful leader in your company. Maybe recognize leaders who champion successful value-creating AI initiatives.
And you mentioned visiting other companies.
Yeah, the book suggests visiting organizations that are maybe a few steps ahead in their AI maturity. Learning from those pioneers, seeing their successes and challenges firsthand, can dramatically shorten your own learning curve. Avoid reinventing the wheel.
Seeing is believing sometimes. The book provides a really powerful illustration of this whole executive imperative thing through a case study Global Logistics Corps, or GLC, and its CEO, Arthur Vance. Can you kind of paint that picture for us? It sounds like a great example.
Yeah, it's a fantastic case study in the book, really brings these principles to life. So GLC was portrayed as a solid, pretty traditional logistics company. Competent, but maybe not cutting edge. Arthur Vance, the CEO, was initially, let's say, skeptical about the AI hype.
Understandable. Lots of hype out there.
Right. But he had this critical realization, this aha moment, where he understood that AI wasn't just a tool for making minor tweaks to their existing operations. He saw it was going to fundamentally redefine the entire logistics industry. For him, it became an existential strategic imperative.
So he didn't just see it as an IT project to optimize routes a bit better. He saw it as a CEO-level strategic transformation issue.
Exactly that. He saw it as his problem, his responsibility to lead. And he took charge personally. The first thing the book highlights is that he articulated a really compelling AI-centric vision for GLC.
Not just, we'll use some AI.
No, not vague at all. His vision was bold, ambitious, something like, to become the most intelligent and adaptive logistics network globally, delivering unparalleled value and reliability to our customers, enabled by data-driven insights and AI-powered operations.
Wow, that's clear.
Yeah, and it wasn't just words on a slide. He constantly communicated this vision, explicitly linking AI investments directly to the company's core mission of customer value and operational excellence, making it tangible for everyone.
So, connecting the dots for people, what was the second thing he did?
Second, he personally championed AI fluency throughout the leadership ranks. He didn't just, tell his team to go get educated. He participated actively in the executive AI programs himself, setting the example.
Leading from the front.
Exactly. He established that AI Leadership Council we talked about, making sure AI strategy and progress were regular agenda items in top-level executive discussions. The language used in leadership meetings started to shift. The questions asked became more AI-focused.
He walked the talk, showing this was a priority for absolutely everyone at the top.
Precisely. Third, big action. He established robust governance right from the very beginning. He recognized that AI, especially in logistics with sensitive data, carried inherent risks. So he sponsored the creation of a comprehensive AI governance framework and a dedicated AI ethics committee.
Proactive on the risk and ethics side. Smart.
Very smart. They developed clear principles for responsible AI deployment, data privacy standards, super critical with shipping data and transparency guidelines, especially when they started implementing things like dynamic pricing or AI-driven route optimization that directly impacted customers or their drivers. This built crucial trust, internally and externally.
That trust piece is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, vision, fluency, governance, what else?
Fourth was strategic investment and clear prioritization. Vance didn't just allocate a small R&D budget. He secured significant multi-year capital allocation specifically for AI initiatives. And crucially, he focused these investments across three clear strategic pillars.
Which were?
1. Enhancing intelligent operations. This was the core stuff, using AI for real-time road optimization, considering traffic, weather, delivery windows, using predictive maintenance based on sensor data from trucks and warehouse equipment to prevent breakdowns.
Okay, boosting efficiency.
2. Developing customer-centric solutions. Using AI to provide customers with highly accurate predictive ETAs for their shipments, sending proactive alerts about potential delays before they even happened. Really improving that customer experience.
Making life better for the customer.
And pillar 3, critically, data infrastructure modernization. He understood you couldn't do advanced AI on old systems, so they invested heavily in building a modern cloud-based data platform to break down the data silos that existed across the company, because AI needs clean, accessible, integrated data to work effectively.
Investing in the necessary plumbing, not just the fancy AI applications on top.
You got it. Can't build a skyscraper on shaky foundations. And finally, the fifth key area was his focus on fostering an AI-conscious culture.
The people side again.
Absolutely. He made a point of publicly celebrating early AI project successes, even the small wins, to build momentum and demonstrate tangible value quickly. He encouraged things like internal innovation challenges that specifically leveraged AI. He empowered AI champions within different business units. And he made it explicitly clear that experimentation, learning from failures, which inevitably happen with AI, was not just tolerated, but actually valued behavior.
Wow. That sounds incredibly comprehensive. He really touched on strategy, the technology, the data, the people, the culture, the whole package.
It was a holistic approach, driven from the top.
So what happened? What kind of results did GLC see from this very deliberate CEO-led AI pushover, say, the next 3 to 5 years, according to the book?
The transformation described in the book is profound. Operationally, efficiency just soared. That AI-driven route optimization, it didn't just make drivers' lives easier, it reduced fuel costs by a reported 15% and improved on-time delivery reliability by 20%. Huge numbers in logistics.
15% fuel reduction is massive.
Massive. And the predictive maintenance, using sensor data and AI to forecast equipment failures before they happened. That drastically cut unplanned downtime for trucks and sorting machinery, which saved enormous costs and improved service levels.
So really significant, tangible impact hitting the bottom line in core operations.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just internal. Customer satisfaction and retention saw major improvements. Customers apparently loved the accurate predictive ETAs and the proactive communication about potential issues. It felt like GLC was anticipating their needs, being a better partner. This actually helped GLC win back some key clients they'd previously lost to more nimble competitors.
Interesting. Improving the experience brought business back.
Yeah. And new revenue streams emerged, too. Because they'd built this sophisticated data platform and advanced analytics capabilities for their own internal use, they realized they could package some of that up. They started offering supply chain analytics services to their customers, turning an internal capability into a whole new product line.
Turning their data advantage into a market offering itself. Very smart.
Exactly. Employee engagement also reportedly increased. Teams were genuinely excited to be working on cutting-edge, high-impact projects that clearly had strategic importance. People want to work on cool stuff that matters.
True.
And maybe most critically, the market perception of GLC shifted dramatically. They went from being seen as, just another reliable trucking company to being viewed as a tech-forward innovator in the logistics space. And that was reflected in their stock price and overall valuation.
What a turnaround. That GLC story makes it crystal clear why executive leadership isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely essential. It drives real transformation and, like you said, creates that significant competitive gap.
It really does. It's a powerful illustration of the book's core argument on leadership.
Okay, so leadership is paramount. Now, the book moves from that high-level imperative to the essential groundwork needed underneath. Chapter 3 and other sections lay out these key foundations for AI readiness. These feel like the necessary building blocks, right?
They absolutely are. The book presents these as 4 critical dimensions you really have to get right to build a truly AI-ready organization. You can't skip steps here. The first one is strategic alignment.
Which ties directly back to that executive imperative we just discussed, doesn't it?
Precisely. It's the absolute necessity of ensuring that your AI initiatives aren't just, random acts of technology adoption happening in pockets. They must be directly linked to and actively enabling your overall business strategy.
So AI serves the strategy, not the other way around.
Exactly. AI should be seen and used as a powerful tool, a powerful enabler to achieve specific, measurable strategic objectives. Whether that objective is entering new markets, or improving customer lifetime value, or reducing operational risk, or driving specific cost efficiencies. And this requires that C-suite-driven AI vision we talked about with GLC, that clear, articulated, and constantly championed picture of how AI contributes to the company's future success. It also means defining very specific AI use cases that are tied directly to measurable business outcomes.
Outcomes like revenue growth, cost reduction, better customer experience, lower risk, things a business actually cares about.
Right. You have to focus AI efforts on solving real, high-value business problems, not just exploring cool technology for its own sake. The wow factor wears off fast if there's no tangible value.
So the why behind any AI project always needs to be a clear business outcome.
Got it. Exactly. And the AI strategy itself needs to be integrated. It shouldn't be a standalone document sitting on a shelf. It needs to be woven into your overall corporate strategy, into departmental plans, even into product development roadmaps. It can't just live off in an isolated innovation lab.
It needs to be part of the day-to-day business fabric.
Right. And clear executive sponsorship and accountability for specific major AI initiatives are crucial. Someone at the top needs to own it. The book also introduces this idea of maturity levels for strategic alignment.
Maturity level.
Yeah, ranging from, say, level 1 exploratory, where maybe you're just tinkering with a few small AI pilots, all the way up to level 5 embedded in core strategy. That's where AI is truly fundamental to how the company thinks, how it plans, how it competes, and how it renews itself strategically over time.
So you need to figure out where you are on that scale, honestly assess it, and then have a plan to deliberately move up that maturity curve.
Exactly. And the book connects this whole dimension back to a core leadership competency discussed later in Chapter 14 called strategic framing.
Strategic framing. Tell me more about that.
Strategic framing is essentially the leader's ability to look at an AI opportunity or proposal and clearly articulate its link to business value creation. It's the ability to prioritize different AI opportunities based on their potential strategic impact, not just their technical coolness.
Yep.
It's about understanding how AI is changing the competitive landscape in your industry. What are competitors doing? Where are the new threats or opportunities? And it's about defining success metrics for AI initiatives that go beyond just technical measures like model accuracy and actually track the real business outcomes, like revenue uplift or cost savings.
So it's the leader's job to constantly translate the AI potential into tangible business strategy and value.
You got it. That's dimension 1, strategic alignment.
Okay, clear strategic alignment and leadership understanding. What's the second foundational dimension the book outlines?
Dimension 2 is data governance as a foundation. And the book is absolutely, completely unequivocal on this point. High-quality, well-governed data is not optional. It's the absolute lifeblood of artificial intelligence.
We hear this a lot. Data is the new oil. But why is strong governance specifically so fundamental for AI?
Because AI models learn patterns, make predictions, generate insights based entirely on the data they're trained on. It's that old programmer saying garbage in, garbage out. But as the book implies, it's magnified like 1,000 times with AI.
Okay, so bad data leads to bad AI. Makes sense.
Exactly. If your underlying data is inaccurate, incomplete, inconsistent across systems, riddled with biases, or simply out of date, your AI models will inherit all those flaws. They'll make poor predictions, generate biased recommendations, or simply fail to work reliably.
So what does good data governance involve in this context?
It means having a rigorous, organization-wide focus on data quality, accuracy, completeness, and timeliness. It means having robust security and privacy measures in place. Think complying with regulations like GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California, or sector-specific rules like HIPAA in healthcare. Protecting sensitive customer or operational data isn't just a compliance checkbox. It's fundamental to building the trust required for people to accept and use AI systems.
Especially if the AI is making decisions that affect people.
Absolutely. You also need clear data provenance and lineage. That means being able to track where your data originally came from, how it was collected, and how it has been transformed, cleaned, or combined along the way. This is crucial for debugging models when they go wrong, ensuring accountability, and building trust in the outputs.
Knowing the history of your data.
Right. And finally, you need clear policies around data ownership, access, and usage. Who actually owns specific data assets within the organization? Who is allowed to access sensitive data? For what specific purposes could different types of data be used? Without clear rules of the road for data, AI efforts will be constantly hampered by unreliable results, internal squabbles over data access, or worse, expose the organization to significant legal, reputational, or financial risks.
So data governance isn't just some back office chore for the IT department or the compliance folks. It's presented as an absolute prerequisite, a strategic enabler for any successful AI initiative.
It's the non-negotiable foundation upon which everything else is built. If this is weak, the whole AI structure is unstable.
Okay, strategic alignment, data governance. What about the technology itself? Is that Dimension 3?
Dimension 3 is digital maturity and, importantly, platform thinking. The book makes a strong point that AI models and sophisticated AI applications really thrive in modern, agile IT environments. Trying to bolt cutting-edge AI onto creaking legacy systems, well, it's incredibly difficult, slow, and often ineffective.
So you kind of need a certain level of IT modernization already in place before you can really succeed with AI at scale.
Generally, yes. Those old monolithic systems, the siloed databases, they create huge friction for AI development and deployment. And critically, the book emphasizes the need to move towards platform thinking for scaling AI effectively.
Platform thinking, what does that mean in practice?
It means shifting away from the common approach of building bespoke, standalone AI solutions for each individual problem that comes along. That's often slow, expensive, and leads to duplication of effort. Instead, platform thinking focuses on building reusable, scalable technology platforms. Think of them as digital engines that can support many different AI applications across the organization.
Like building a central nervous system or maybe the core infrastructure for all your AI initiatives?
That's a great analogy. It involves identifying the common capabilities that many different AI projects will need. Things like standardized data ingestion pipelines, robust feature stores.
Feature stores?
Yeah, feature store is basically a centralized repository where curated, reusable data features, think calculated customer attributes, product characteristics, things AI models use, are stored and managed so data science teams can easily discover and access them without reinventing the wheel every time. Save a ton of time and ensures consistency.
Okay, got it. Common capabilities like data pipelines, feature stores. What else?
MLOps infrastructure. That's machine learning operations. The tools and processes for efficiently deploying, monitoring, managing, and retraining AI models once they're built. Building these common capabilities into a platform means teams aren't constantly rebuilding the same data connectors or model deployment workflows from scratch for every new project.
So building reusable components and services.
Exactly. It speeds up development massively and ensures consistency and quality. You also need to be driving large, designing for scalability and extensibility right from the outset, building platforms that can handle growing data volumes, increasing modern complexity, and can be easily adapted or extended for new, unforeseen use cases down the road.
Future-proofing the infrastructure.
Right. And the book also talks about how good platforms can promote self-service and democratization where appropriate.
Enabling more people to use AI.
Yeah, maybe enabling citizen data scientists, domain experts in marketing or finance, for example, who have some training and work within strong guardrails to use well-designed platforms with low-code or no-code AI tools to solve problems relevant to their specific area without needing a dedicated data science team for every small task.
Interesting, spreading the capability.
And technically, the book highlights APIs, application programming interfaces, and microservices as the essential glue that holds these platforms together. They allow different components and services, data sources, models, applications to communicate flexibly and reliably. And underpinning all this is leveraging cloud-native design principles using things like containers, Kubernetes for orchestration, serverless functions. This provides the necessary agility, scalability, and elasticity that AI workloads typically demand.
So it's really about architecting a modern, interconnected, scalable tech stack that doesn't just allow AI projects to happen, but actively enables them to be built, deployed, and managed efficiently, reliably, and at scale across the enterprise.
That's the core idea of Dimension 3, moving beyond isolated projects to building an enterprise AI engine.
Makes sense. Okay, strategy, data, tech platform. What's the crucial fourth dimension?
The fourth dimension is talent and culture. And the book argues this is perhaps the most crucial dimension of all, because even the best technology and the clearest strategy won't deliver real value without the right people and the right organizational culture.
Technology is only part of the equation. People make it happen.
Absolutely. AI adoption is fundamentally a human endeavor enabled by technology.
So what does this dimension involve? Is it just about hiring a bunch of PhD data scientists?
Well, that's part of it. You definitely need a strategy for acquiring specialized AI talent. Yes, data scientists, machine learning engineers, MLO specialists are key. But the book also highlights roles like AI product managers, who understand both the tech and the business needs, and increasingly AI ethicists or responsible AI leads. You need a plan to attract, develop internally, or retain these often scarce skills.
Okay, the specialists. But it's broader than that.
Much broader. Equally important, maybe even more so for broad adoption, is building AI fluency across the organization. Everyone, from frontline staff interacting with AI tools, to middle managers making decisions based on AI insights, right up to senior leaders setting the strategy, needs a foundational understanding. What is AI? What are its basic capabilities and, importantly, its limitations? How does it impact their specific work, their decisions, the customer? This baseline fluency enables effective collaboration and trust.
And this is where those AI translators you mentioned earlier come in, bridging the gap.
Precisely. The book really highlights the critical need for these AI translators, or sometimes called business liaisons. These are people with a unique hybrid skill set. They have deep business or domain expertise. They understand marketing or supply chain or finance, combined with a strong practical understanding of AI capabilities, data, and limitations.
They speak both languages.
Exactly. They're crucial for bridging that often wide communication gap between the technical AI teams and the business units. They ensure that AI projects are focused on solving the right business problems and that the solutions are designed in a way that they'll actually be adopted and used effectively by the business. They translate business needs into technical requirements and technical possibilities back into business implications.
Sounds like a vital role. What else falls under talent and culture?
The book emphasizes fostering a culture of data-driven decision-making throughout the organization. This means genuinely valuing data and evidence, often over intuition or hierarchy, when making choices. It involves training employees not just to use AI tools, but to critically interpret data and AI outputs. And it requires actively building trust in the AI systems themselves through transparency and proven reliability.
Moving away from gut feel decisions.
Towards more evidence-based decisions, yeah. Agility and experimentation are also highlighted as critical cultural traits. AI development is often iterative and exploratory. You don't always know the perfect answer up front. So, an agile culture that encourages experimentation, accepts that some AI projects will inevitably fail or need pivoting, and focuses on learning quickly from those experiences is absolutely essential. That fail fast, learn faster mindset.
Being willing to try things and adapt.
Exactly. And finally, the book stresses the need for strong change management capabilities. AI inevitably changes roles, workflows, decision-making processes, skill requirements. Organizations need to be proactive in addressing the human side of this transformation, managing resistance, communicating transparently, retraining and upskilling employees, and ensuring a smooth, fair transition for everyone affected.
Managing the people impact is just as important as managing the tech project.
Arguably more so for long-term success.
Okay, those four dimensions, strategic alignment, data governance, digital maturity and platform thinking, and talent and culture, they really do sound like the complete bedrock. The book seems to argue you simply can't achieve that sustainable, intelligent advantage it talks about without consciously building strength in all four of them.
They're presented as the absolute non-negotiable foundation. If any one of those legs is weak, the whole structure is unstable, and your AI ambitions are likely to stumble.
Right. That provides a really clear framework for assessing readiness. Let's shift our deep dive now, building on that foundation, to explore how AI is actually impacting different parts of the business. The book goes into detail here, starting with something as core as strategic planning itself. It suggests AI is fundamentally redesigning this whole process.
Yes, this is where things get really interesting, and you can see very clearly how that competitive gap we mentioned starts to open up. The book draws a sharp contrast between the traditional, often quite static, way companies have done strategic planning and a new, AI-augmented approach it calls continuous strategic sensing.
Continuous strategic sensing.
And it captures this shift beautifully with a phrase used in the book, which I think is really powerful. Strategy is no longer drawn, it's sensed.
Strategy is no longer drawn, it's sensed. I like that. It really highlights a shift, doesn't it? Traditional strategic planning often felt so episodic. Like you did this big exercise once a year, maybe once a quarter. You gathered data, held workshops, wrote a plan.
And by the time the glossy report was finalized and distributed, the data was probably already weeks or months old, and the market might have already shifted.
Exactly. It felt reactive based on looking backward.
Right. Traditional planning often relied on periodic market research reports, maybe an annual competitive landscape analysis. Those scheduled SWOT workshops based on data that was inherently backward-looking and often incomplete. By the time you formally identified a new threat or a fleeting opportunity in that process, it might have already materialized, or worse, passed you by entirely.
So how does AI change this? How does it enable this continuous sensing?
AI systems essentially become the organization's tireless, global, intelligent eyes and ears, operating 24/7. They can continuously monitor and ingest vast amounts of data from an incredibly diverse array of external channels, often in real time or near real time.
What kind of channels are we talking about, beyond just news articles?
Way beyond. Yes, traditional news feeds, but also think about analyzing streams from social media to gauge public sentiment or spot emerging trends, tracking regulatory databases for policy shift that could impact your business, monitoring competitors' digital footprints, their website changes, job postings, product announcements.
Okay, a much wider net.
And financial market data, patent databases for early signals of technological innovation, and even what the book calls alternative data sources. Things like analyzing satellite imagery to track economic activity, like counting cars in retail parking lots, or analyzing anonymized shipping data to understand real-time supply chain flows and potential disruptions.
Wow. It sounds like an AI-powered radar constantly scanning the entire global business environment.
That's a great way to think about it. And crucially, powerful AI algorithms, especially NLP and machine learning, can sift through this enormous, often unstructured deluge of information, text, images, data feeds to identify things humans would likely miss or only spot much later.
Like what kinds of things?
Identifying subtle emerging trends in consumer behavior or market sentiment before they become mainstream. Detecting early signals of a competitor making a strategic move, like quietly building capacity in a new area. Anticipating potential technological disruptions based on research papers or patent filings, or identifying potential geopolitical risks or supply chain vulnerabilities based on analyzing news and logistics data from around the world, often long before these issues appear in standard industry reports.
So you're potentially getting weeks or months ahead of the curve instead of just reacting to events after they happen.
That's precisely the goal, getting proactive instead of reactive. And this continuous stream of external intelligence then feeds into a much more dynamic and contextualized SWOT or 2WS analysis.
So not just a static SWOT chart done once a year in a workshop.
Exactly. Instead of a fixed snapshot based on old data, AI continuously analyzes both this incoming external environmental data and relevant internal data, things like your own operational performance trends, customer feedback themes, internal talent skill gaps. It synthesizes all of this to provide a living, evolving understanding of your strategic landscape, highlighting strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as they shift, sometimes day by day.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but also potentially overwhelming. How does all this real-time insight get to the decision makers without just drowning them in data?
That's a key challenge, and the book addresses it. It talks about the need for automated, personalized, and predictive intelligence briefings for decision makers. The AI doesn't just dump raw data feeds on executives.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. Instead, it uses AI to synthesize the fire hose of information, identify the most relevant, most impactful, most timely signals, and present them in concise, digestible formats. These briefings can be highly personalized for specific leaders or teams based on their defined strategic responsibilities or areas of interest. So the head of Asia Pacific gets different insights than the VP of R&D.
Tailored intelligence.
Yes. And crucially, these briefings move beyond just reporting what has happened. They aim to provide contextualized insights about why a particular signal matters strategically, and often include predictive assessments what might happen next as a result, and what the potential impact could be on the business.
So the whole strategic planning process transforms. It becomes less about building consensus around potentially stale data in periodic meetings and more about enabling informed, agile responses based on continuously updated, forward-looking intelligence.
You've nailed it. That phrase, strategy is no longer drawn, it's sensed, really captures that fundamental shift. It moves strategy from being a periodic, often document-heavy exercise to becoming a dynamic, intelligence-infused core capability embedded right at the heart of the organization.
That continuous sensing capability feels like one of the clearest ways AI can create a genuine, sustainable, competitive advantage for companies that master it.
Absolutely. It allows you to navigate uncertainty and adapt much more quickly and effectively than competitors who are still relying on the old, slower planning cycles.
That transition is profound. Okay, let's think about operations next. Operational efficiency has always been a huge focus for businesses, right? From the early days of assembly lines to modern process optimization using Lean or Six Sigma. How is AI redefining what operational efficiency even means?
Well, you're right. Operational efficiency has traditionally relied very heavily on those brilliant methodologies like lean manufacturing and Six Sigma. They focus on critical things like eliminating waste, reducing process variability, standardizing tasks, and empowering people to make incremental improvements. These are absolutely foundational and still incredibly valuable.
But AI adds something new to the mix.
Yes. The book suggests AI introduces a fundamentally new layer, moving beyond human-led optimization towards what it terms intelligent autonomy.
Intelligent autonomy. Okay, what does that mean? How does AI push beyond what Lean or Six Sigma can achieve?
It enables a shift where optimization moves from being primarily human-analyzed and human-adjusted, often based on periodic reviews, to being driven by AI systems that can learn, adapt, and potentially self-optimize processes continuously, often in real time, based on incoming data.
So the machines start optimizing themselves.
To a degree, yes, within defined parameters and with human oversight, of course. The book highlights several key shifts enabled by this. First, a shift from reactive to predictive and even prescriptive actions. Explain that.
Okay, so instead of waiting for a machine on the factory floor to break down and then fixing it, that's reactive, AI analyzes sensor data, vibration, temperature, etc., to predict when that machine is likely to fail in the near future. That's predictive maintenance.
Preventing the problem before it happens. Big savings there.
Huge. And prescriptive goes a step further. The AI might not only predict the failure, but also recommend the optimal maintenance schedule, or even in some cases, automatically adjust operating parameters to prolong the machine's life until maintenance can be scheduled conveniently. It prescribes the best course of action.
Got it. Reactive predicts prescriptive. What's another shift?
From periodic, often manual, adjustments to continuous automated optimization. Think about a human operator adjusting settings on a machine or tweaking parameters in a logistics system based on performance they observe maybe once a shift or once a day.
AI systems, on the other hand, can analyze vast streams of data 24/7 sensor readings from thousands of points on a production line, customer traffic patterns on a global e-commerce website, real-time energy prices for a manufacturing plant, and make tiny micro-adjustments continuously in real time to constantly optimize for efficiency or throughput or energy cost in ways that humans simply cannot monitor or react to at that speed and scale.
Like that supply chain example, constantly tweaking routes and inventory levels based on live traffic, weather, and demand signals.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Which leads to the next shift, from localized optimization to potential system-wide excellence. Traditional improvement efforts often focus on optimizing one specific part of a factory, one call center team, or one segment of a supply chain. It's hard for humans to see and manage all the complex interdependencies across a large system.
Right, you optimize one part, it might negatively affect another.
Precisely. AI, however, has the potential to analyze vast, interconnected data sets across an entire complex network, say, optimizing the flow of goods all the way from raw material suppliers through multiple manufacturing stages, across different distribution centers, and down to the final delivery points. It can look for optimizations across the entire system, considering all the trade-offs simultaneously, to achieve a level of global system optimization that's often impossible with purely localized efforts.
Seeing the whole forest, not just the trees.
Exactly. Another key shift is from fixed processes to adaptive learning systems. Traditional business processes are typically designed based on historical data or best practices, and then they're meant to be followed consistently.
Standard operating procedures.
Right. AI enables systems that can actually learn and intelligently adapt their own behavior or logic based on changing conditions or ongoing performance feedback. The book gives an example of an AI-powered customer service routing system. Instead of static rules for sending calls to agents, the AI can learn in real time which agents are most effective at resolving specific types of customer issues based on actual outcomes like resolution time or customer satisfaction scores, and then continuously improve its own routing logic to match customers with the best available agent for their specific need at that moment.
The system gets smarter over time by itself.
Based on data, yes. And finally, there's a shift from human-limited scale and complexity to machine-powered scale. There's simply a limit to the scale and complexity of systems that humans can effectively manage and optimize directly. Think about managing traffic flow in real time across a major smart city, or optimizing bids across millions of keywords in a global digital advertising campaign, or managing the intricate operations of a massive e-commerce fulfillment network. AI can handle this immense scale and complexity, processing and optimizing millions of variables simultaneously in ways that are far beyond human cognitive capacity.
So, summing that up, AI isn't just making existing operational processes, say, 10% more efficient. It's enabling entirely new levels of predictive capability, continuous real-time optimization, system-wide coordination, adaptive learning, and management of complexity that were simply impossible to achieve before. It's a different kind of efficiency.
It's a step change in operational capability, moving towards that idea of intelligent autonomy.
Okay, let's make this even more concrete. Let's look at some specific business functions where the book says AI is having a major impact. Supply chain and logistics seems like a really natural fit, and Chapter 6 apparently goes into detail there.
Oh, absolutely. It's an area undergoing truly transformative change driven by AI. And one of the most impactful applications discussed is predictive demand planning.
Demand planning. That's forecasting how much stuff you're going to sell, right? Always tricky.
Exactly. And traditional forecasting often relies heavily on historical sales data, maybe with some simple adjustments for seasonality or known promotions. It's often quite limited in its accuracy, especially in volatile markets.
So how does AI improve on that?
AI and machine learning models can analyze a vastly wider and more diverse array of data sources simultaneously to create much more accurate, much more granular, and much more dynamic demand forecasts.
What kind of diverse data sources are we talking about here? It can't just be past sales numbers.
No, it goes way beyond that. The book talks about using historical sales data, of course, that's still important, but also analyzing the specific impact of past marketing promotions, incorporating detailed product attributes like color, size, specific features that might influence demand. Using detailed customer behavior data from e-commerce interactions, loyalty programs, even browsing patterns. Analyzing social media sentiment around specific products or brands.
Okay, that's already a lot more than typical forecasts use.
But then it adds a whole layer of external factors. This connects back to that continuous sensing idea.
Bringing the outside world into the demand forecast.
Absolutely. Things like macroeconomic indicators, GDP growth forecasts, inflation rates, consumer confidence indices, analyzing competitor activities. Are they launching a new product, running a big sale? Using highly granular weather forecasts, which can massively impact demand for things like seasonal clothing, beverages, or even affect logistics routes.
Yeah, weather is huge for some industries.
Definitely. Incorporating data on local events, festivals, sporting events, conferences that might affect traffic patterns or local consumption. Tracking social trends. Maybe a product suddenly goes viral on TikTok, or there's a broader lifestyle shift affecting demand patterns. Using geospatial data, like changes in population density or new housing developments. And even incorporating real-time signals from within the supply chain itself.
Like what?
Things like current port congestion levels, real-time trucking capacity availability in different regions, or even getting data feeds about potential production delays from key suppliers. AI models are incredibly good at finding complex, often nonlinear, relationships and patterns within all this diverse data patterns that human analysts, using spreadsheets, would simply never be able to spot.
Wow. That depth and breadth of data processed by AI. I can see how that would lead to incredibly more accurate and responsive forecasts compared to just looking at last year's sales.
It really does. And the benefits described in the book just ripple throughout the entire supply chain and the wider business. You see, significantly reduced stockouts and lost sales because you're much more likely to have the right product in the right place at the right time.
Good for revenue and customer satisfaction.
Exactly. You also see minimized excess inventory and the associated carrying costs and risk of obsolescence because you're not over-forecasting as much. This leads to improved production scheduling and better resource allocation in manufacturing because the demand signals are more reliable.
Smoother operations.
Right. It enhances financial planning and budgeting accuracy because the revenue forecasts are more trustworthy. It gives the business greater agility and responsiveness to unexpected demand shifts or market changes. And it can even help with more effective new product introductions, NPIs.
How does it help with new products where there's no sales history?
The book mentions using attribute-based forecasting. AI models can predict demand for a brand new product by analyzing the demand patterns of existing products that share similar attributes or features. So you're not just guessing based on analogies. You have a data-driven prediction.
Okay, so AI fundamentally changes how companies predict, plan, and manage the flow of goods through their supply chain. Huge implications. What about another core function? Finance. The book talks about the evolution of the CFO into an AI-augmented CFO. What does that look like?
Yeah, this is another fascinating transformation discussed. The traditional role of the CFO, while always critical, has often been focused on historical reporting, financial control, compliance, sort of looking in the rearview mirror.
Keeping score, making sure the numbers add up.
Exactly. Necessary, but maybe not always deeply strategic. The book argues that AI is enabling and, frankly, requiring the CFO role to evolve into being a much more strategic, forward-looking partner to the CEO and the rest of the business.
So how does AI enable that strategic shift for the CFO?
The book highlights several key ways the role evolves, driven by AI capabilities. Firstly, the CFO moves from being primarily a historical reporter telling the business what did happen last quarter to becoming a predictive strategist, using AI-powered forecasting, simulation, and scenario modeling to explore what could happen under different future conditions and what the financial implications would be.
More forward-looking.
Much more. They evolve from being mainly a cost controller, focused on cutting expenses reactively, to becoming a value architect, using sophisticated AI-driven profitability analysis to truly understand the nuanced drivers of value creation across different products, customer segments, and channels, and then guiding capital allocation towards the investments likely to generate the highest strategic return.
Shifting from cost-cutting to value creation focus.
Right. They also shift from being primarily a compliance overseer, ensuring the books are right and rules are followed, to becoming a proactive risk navigator, leveraging AI for continuous monitoring across a much broader range of financial and operational data streams to identify, predict, and mitigate potential risks, fraud risk, credit risk, market risk, even supply chain risk, much earlier and more effectively.
Getting ahead of risks instead of just reporting on past issues.
Exactly. There's also a shift from being a data gatekeeper, often controlling access to financial data, to becoming an insights enabler, championing data literacy within the finance function and across the company, promoting the use of AI-driven analytics for better decision-making everywhere, not just hoarding data.
Democratizing financial insights.
In a controlled and governed way, yes. The CFO role also transforms from being primarily a technology consumer relying on the IT department to provide financial systems to becoming a digital transformation champion, actively driving the adoption of AI, automation, and advanced analytics within the finance function itself, making it more efficient and effective.
Leading the tech charge within finance.
Right. And it's not just about tech, it's about people too. Shifting from being just a talent manager for the finance team to being an architect of the future finance workforce. Proactively thinking about the skills finance professionals will need in an AI-driven world, data science literacy, analytics interpretation, strategic advisory skills, and actively upskilling their teams.
Preparing the finance team for the future.
And finally, the book suggests the CFO evolves from simply reporting financial results to the board to becoming a true strategic board advisor, using those AI-driven scenario analyses, predictive insights, and risk assessments to provide much deeper, more forward-looking counsel to the board on overall strategic direction, major investments, and potential future challenges and opportunities.
Wow. That is a massive strategic uplift for the finance function. It really moves from focusing primarily on the rearview mirror, as you said, to intensely focusing on the road ahead, armed with predictive intelligence and scenario planning capabilities enabled by AI.
It's a fundamental transformation of the role, making the CFO potentially one of the most critical strategic voices in the AI-driven enterprise.
Okay, fascinating. Let's turn to another critical area. Human capital strategy, or HR, as most people call it. Chapter 9 in the book explores this. How does AI change something as inherently human-centric as managing people? Seems almost counterintuitive.
It does seem counterintuitive at first glance, but the book argues that AI actually acts as a powerful catalyst for redefining the entire employee lifecycle and, importantly, elevating the HR function itself, moving it from being often perceived as primarily transactional and administrative to becoming truly strategic and even more people-centric.
More people-centric through AI. How does that work? How does AI help HR become more strategic?
Well, automation is a big piece of the puzzle initially. AI can automate many of the routine, high-volume, often frankly tedious HR tasks. Things like the initial screening of thousands of resumes against job requirements, answering common employee questions about benefits or policies via sophisticated chatbots, automating parts of the onboarding paperwork and process flow.
Taking away the repetitive admin work, the busy work.
Exactly. And by freeing up HR professionals from spending so much time on that transactional work, it allows them to dedicate significantly more time and energy to higher impact, genuinely strategic activities. Things like sophisticated, long-term strategic workforce planning, figuring out the skills the company will need in 3 to 5 years and how to get them. Deep talent management strategies, helping with organizational design, actively cultivating the desired company culture, and providing data-driven counsel and insights to business leaders on critical people-related issues.
So AI handles the routine stuff, humans handle the strategic high-touch stuff.
That's a big part of it. But the book argues it also enables HR to foster more people-centric cultures in some, perhaps surprising ways.
Okay.
For example, AI allows for truly personalized employee experiences at scale, tailoring everything from learning and development recommendations to benefit options to internal communications based on an individual employee's role, tenure, career goals, skills, and expressed preferences, making employees feel understood and catered to as individuals, not just numbers.
Mass personalization for employees.
Right. It can also help facilitate fairer, potentially less biased, data-driven talent decisions. By carefully designing AI tools to analyze objective data points related to skills, experience, and performance while actively auditing for and mitigating algorithmic bias, HR can potentially reduce the impact of unconscious human biases that can creep into hiring decisions, performance reviews, or promotion processes.
Using data to try and make things more equitable and objective, that's a big promise.
It's a promise that requires very careful design and constant vigilance against bias. But the potential is there. AI can also empower employees directly with new tools. Think about AI-driven internal talent marketplaces that help employees find new projects, gigs, or even full-time roles within the company that match their skills and aspirations. Or personalized learning platforms that recommend specific courses or resources based on their career development goals. Even AI-powered career coaching tools offering guidance.
Giving employees more agency over their careers.
Exactly. AI can also enhance communication and feedback loops. For instance, using NLP to analyze anonymized sentiment from employee surveys or internal communication platforms to identify emerging morale issues or areas of friction much earlier. And it can even support employee well-being and burnout prevention.
How can AI help with burnout?
By analyzing aggregated, anonymized data patterns, things like working hours, meeting loads, vacation time taken or not taken, AI might be able to identify teams or functions that are showing statistical indicators associated with high stress or potential burnout risk, allowing HR and leadership to intervene proactively with support or workload adjustments. Always respecting privacy, of course.
Using data insights to better support employee health and well-being.
Yes. And finally, the book highlights AI's value in enabling smarter career pathing and leadership development.
Tell me more about that.
AI systems can analyze employee skills, performance history, stated career interests, and compare them against the company's current and projected future talent needs to suggest intelligent career paths, identifying potential next roles or skill development areas for individuals. It can help identify high-potential employees earlier and perhaps more objectively based on a wider range of data points and performance trajectories.
Spotting future leaders.
Potentially, yes. AI can help create highly personalized leadership development programs tailored to an individual leader's specific strengths, weaknesses, and development goals, rather than generic programs. It can provide sophisticated succession planning support by modeling talent pipelines, identifying potential gaps for critical roles, and suggesting potential internal candidates. And it can even facilitate things like AI-driven mentorship matching, connecting junior employees with suitable senior mentors based on skills, experience, and personality compatibility factors.
Wow. It really sounds like AI gives HR the tools and the bandwidth to be far more proactive, far more personalized, and ultimately far more strategic about managing and developing the company's most important asset, its people. It's not replacing the human touch, but augmenting it.
That's exactly the framing in the book, augmenting HR's capabilities to be more strategic and human-centric.
Okay, let's move to the customer side. Customer experience, or CX, is obviously a massive focus for almost every business today. Chapter 10 in the book dives deep into how AI is transforming CX. What are the key shifts there?
The core idea is that AI is transforming customer engagement from what has often been reactive, fragmented, and inconsistent interactions into an experience that is much more integrated, proactive, personalized, and deeply intelligent.
Moving beyond just answering calls or emails when customers reach out?
Way beyond. It starts, according to the book, with the ability to perform holistic data integration and synthesis. Modern businesses have customer data scattered everywhere in the CRM system: transaction databases, website analytics, mobile app usage logs, chat transcripts, call center recordings, social media mentions, maybe even data from IoT devices.
A confusing mess of data silos?
Often, yes. AI, particularly machine learning, provides the capability to ingest and, crucially, make sense of all this diverse, structured, and unstructured data from literally every customer touchpoint. It can connect the dots and build a truly unified 360-degree view of each individual customer relationship.
Pulling all those scattered pieces of information together into a single, coherent, constantly updated picture for each customer.
Exactly. And often using AI to find subtle patterns and connections across these messy, diverse data sets that would be impossible to see otherwise. This unified view then allows for uncovering latent needs and intent.
Latent needs. Things customers want but haven't explicitly asked for?
Precisely. AI, especially using natural language processing (NLP) techniques, can analyze vast amounts of unstructured customer feedback, think surveys, reviews, call transcripts, social media comments to identify unvoiced pain points, frustrations, or emerging desires that customers aren't directly stating. Or AI can analyze sequences of online behavior browsing patterns, search queries, items added to cart but not purchased to infer purchase intent or information needs before the customer explicitly asks or searches, allowing for more timely and relevant proactive engagement.
So, understanding what the customer likely needs or wants, maybe even before they fully realize it themselves, that's powerful.
That's the potential, yes. AI also helps immensely in understanding context and nuance in interactions. Piecing together a customer's journey across different channels, maybe they started on a website, then called support, then used the mobile app. Understanding the sentiment and emotion behind their written or spoken words using sentiment analysis. Correlating their behavior or questions with external factors that might be impacting them, like a local service outage or a widely reported product issue. This deep contextual awareness is absolutely crucial for delivering empathetic, relevant, and effective experiences.
Seeing the bigger picture around each interaction.
Right. And all this data and understanding feeds into creating dynamic and evolving customer profiles. Instead of static customer personas created based on market research done years ago, AI enables the creation of living customer profiles. These profiles learn and update in near real time as new data comes in from interactions, continuously refining predictions about that customer's future needs, likely behaviors, preferences, and current context.
So the system's understanding of me as a customer gets smarter with every interaction.
That's the idea. And this real-time evolving intelligence is what enables real-time modeling and adaptation during live customer interactions.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
This is where AI moves from passive understanding to active experience shaping. As a customer interacts on your website, in your app, talking to a chatbot, or even a human agent supported by AI tools, the system can process the signals from that interaction instantaneously. This enables things like dynamic personalization of content, offers, product recommendations, or even website layout, tailored in that very moment based on the AI's current understanding of that individual customer's needs and intent.
Personalization on the fly.
Exactly. It provides contextual assistance based on precisely what the customer is doing or seems to be struggling with right now. Think of a proactive chat message popping up with a relevant help article just when you seem stuck on a complex configuration page. And it drives adaptive journey orchestration, guiding the customer through the optimal, personalized path across different channels in real time to help them achieve their goal efficiently, whether that goal is making a purchase, getting support, or finding information. It intelligently routes them and provides the right information or options at each step.
So the system is continuously optimizing the customer's interaction and journey as it's happening.
Precisely. It's about making every interaction smoother, more relevant, and more valuable for the customer. And the book gives specific examples of how companies are applying these AI capabilities to achieve critical business objectives within CX.
Like what kind of objective?
Well, a classic one is churn prediction. Using AI to analyze a wide array of data inputs, things like product usage patterns, transaction history, frequency of service interactions, demographic information, contractual terms, marketing engagement levels, to identify customers who are statistically at high risk of leaving before they actually churn. This allows the company to trigger proactive retention efforts targeted specifically at those at-risk customers, maybe with a special offer or outreach from a support specialist.
Preventing customer loss proactively. Huge value there.
Definitely. Another example is predicting customer lifetime value, CLV. The book mentions a SaaS, software as a service company example, where AI models predict the likely long-term value of different types of new customers based on their initial characteristics and behaviors during a trial period. This helps the sales team prioritize their efforts and resources towards acquiring and nurturing those customer segments with the highest potential long-term profitability.
Focusing sales efforts where they'll have the biggest impact. Smart.
And then there's the whole area of leveraging micro-moments and dynamic pricing.
Dynamic pricing, changing prices based on demand. Airlines and hotels do that.
Yes, but AI takes it to a much more granular and personalized level. AI can optimize pricing not just based on overall demand, but based on a complex interplay of factors in real time for a specific customer interaction, a micro moment. These factors can include the specific customer segment, the time of day or week, the sales channel they're using, current competitor pricing, real-time inventory levels, and even the AI's inferred purchase intent for that specific customer at that specific moment.
Wow. That level of real-time, personalized, dynamic pricing feels like a huge competitive lever that AI enables.
It is, although it also comes with significant ethical considerations around fairness and transparency that need careful management. But the overarching point is that AI fundamentally changes how companies can understand, engage with, predict the behavior of, and ultimately derive value from their customer base, enabling deeply personalized, predictive, and proactive experiences at a scale that was unimaginable before.
An incredible transformation in CX. Okay, we've covered how AI transforms core functions like planning, operations, supply chain, finance, HR, and customer experience. But what about innovation itself? Innovation is the engine of future growth for any company. Chapter 11 in the book suggests AI is completely reinventing that engine too. How so?
Well, traditional innovation processes, while often structured, can face significant limitations. The book talks about inherent frictions and bottlenecks. Ideation can be slow, testing prototypes can be expensive and time-consuming, especially for physical products. Human bias can inadvertently constrain the range of ideas explored, and the sheer cost and time involved in traditional R&D cycles can limit the number of bets a company can place.
Makes sense. Innovation can be slow and expensive.
Right. AI, the book argues, introduces the potential for an AI-augmented innovation pipeline. This means using AI tools to dramatically accelerate multiple stages of the innovation process, from initial ideation and concept generation through rapid virtual testing and validation to faster iteration and refinement of designs or solutions.
So AI helps you brainstorm, test, and improve ideas much more quickly.
Exactly. It makes that often repeated Silicon Valley mantra of fail fast, learn faster genuinely more achievable in practice, reducing the cost and time associated with each learning cycle. But the book suggests AI's role goes much deeper than just speeding up existing processes. It gets into areas like generative design and intelligent R&D, where AI becomes a true partner, a co-creator, in the innovation process itself.
AI as a co-creator, what does generative design involve?
Generative design is a really fascinating area. Instead of a human engineer or designer starting with a blank sheet and sketching out a potential solution based on their experience and intuition, they approach it differently. They input high-level requirements, constraints like the material properties needed, manufacturing methods available, performance goals, cost targets, and the desired outcomes into an AI system.
Okay, feeding the AI the problem definition.
Right. The AI then autonomously explores a vast, often astronomically large design space of potential solutions that meet those constraints. It can generate potentially thousands or even millions of design variations, often exploring configurations that a human designer might never have conceived of. Maybe they look counterintuitive or biologically inspired. The AI evaluates these designs against the specified goals and presents the top-performing, optimized solutions back to the human designer.
Can you give an example?
A classic example mentioned is in engineering, like designing a new bracket for an airplane or a lighter weight component for a car. The book mentions topology optimization, where AI designs these incredibly complex, often organic-looking structures that minimize material usage while maximizing strength and meeting all the performance constraints. The resulting shapes are often impossible for humans to design directly through traditional CAD software. In this sense, AI acts as a creative partner, pushing the boundaries of what's physically possible or efficient.
So AI isn't just analyzing data, it's actually generating novel designs.
Exactly. Generating novelty based on constraints and goals. And beyond product design, the book also discusses how AI is enabling entirely new innovation business models. Two key examples it explores are AI as a service, AIS, and the concept of digital twins.
Okay, can you break down those two models for us? What is AI as a service?
AI as a service, or AIS, is essentially about democratizing access to sophisticated AI capabilities.
Yeah.
Companies develop specialized AI models or platforms, maybe an advanced computer vision API that can analyze medical images, or a highly accurate natural language understanding service for chatbots, or a powerful predictive analytics engine for financial modeling. They then offer access to these pre-built AI capabilities to other companies or developers, typically on a subscription or pay-per-use basis via the cloud.
So smaller companies can leverage advanced AI without building it all themselves.
That's the core value proposition. Smaller companies, startups, or even individual developers can gain access to powerful, state-of-the-art AI functionality without needing to make massive upfront investments in specialized AI talent, data acquisition, or complex infrastructure development. The revenue model is typically based on subscriptions, usage tiers, or API call volume. The competitive advantage for the AIS provider lies in the unique performance, accuracy, and ease of use of their underlying models and platform. Think of cloud providers offering AI services.
Okay, that makes sense. And digital twins, that sounds futuristic.
It does, but it's becoming increasingly real. A digital twin is essentially a dynamic, virtual representation of a real-world physical asset, system, or even a process. Think of a virtual replica of a specific jet engine or an entire factory floor or a wind farm or even a complex system like a city's traffic network or potentially even a patient in healthcare.
A virtual copy of something in the real world.
Exactly. And crucially, this virtual twin isn't static. It's continuously fed with real-world data streamed from sensors, operational systems, and other sources connected to its physical counterpart. AI algorithms then process this vast stream of real-time data within the digital twin environment.
What does the AI do with that data in the twin?
It does several things. It can be used to monitor the health and performance of the physical asset in real time. It can predict future performance, potential failures, or bottlenecks. It allows companies to simulate the impact of potential changes or future scenarios, like what happens if we change this operating parameter? Or how would the system respond to this kind of stress test, entirely in the virtual world, without any risk to the physical asset or process, and can identify opportunities to optimize the performance of the physical asset based on these simulations and predictions.
So you can experiment, learn, and optimize safely in the virtual world before you make expensive or risky changes in the physical world. That's the big value.
That's the core value proposition, yes. Optimizing performance, predicting failures proactively, reducing the risk and cost of experimentation, enabling faster iteration cycles, and ultimately enabling much better data-driven decision-making for complex physical systems. The revenue model often involves subscriptions for access to the digital twin platform and the associated analytics and simulation services. And AI's role here is absolutely critical. It's the intelligence inside the twin, processing the data, running the predictive models, powering the simulations, and generating the actionable insights.
These are genuinely new ways of creating and capturing value fundamentally enabled by AI itself. It's not just improving old models.
Exactly. And the book also broadens the lens on innovation, emphasizing AI as a powerful catalyst for ecosystem innovation. Meaning, AI doesn't just help innovation within the walls of a single company. It enables deeper, more seamless collaboration and joint value creation across an entire network of partners, suppliers, distributors, technology providers, even customers.
How does AI help different companies in an ecosystem innovate together?
Primarily through AI-driven integration and the ability to generate and share intelligence across organizational boundaries, with appropriate governance, of course. The book gives examples like enabling enhanced supply chain visibility and resilience by analyzing data shared across multiple partners simultaneously, maybe predicting disruptions anywhere in the extended chain, dynamically rerouting goods based on shared real-time data, or collectively generating contingency plans.
Connecting the dots across the whole supply chain.
Right. It can support collaborative product development and design, perhaps via shared digital twins where engineers from different partner companies can co-design, simulate, and test complex components or systems together in a secure virtual environment. It allows for the delivery of truly personalized customer experiences that are seamlessly orchestrated through partner integration. Think of a travel company using AI to weave together flights, hotels, ground transportation, and local activity recommendations from different providers into a single, coherent, personalized itinerary based on a deep understanding of the traveler's needs and preferences across the entire journey.
Smoothing out those handoffs between different companies in the customer's journey.
Exactly. And it can enable the creation of shared data platforms or consortia, where groups of companies, maybe within an industry, can agree to pool certain types of anonymized data under strict governance rules. AI can then analyze this larger collective data set to generate valuable insights maybe about market trends, operational benchmarks, or emerging risks that benefit the entire ecosystem while still protecting each company's competitively sensitive information.
So AI helps unlock the collective intelligence and optimize value creation across the entire value chain or ecosystem, not just within your own company's four walls.
Precisely. It unlocks the potential of interconnectedness in new ways. And finally, on the topic of innovation, the book circles back to a crucial point: the absolute importance of designing innovation programs with ethical oversight and governance embedded right from the very beginning. Especially with powerful AI tools like generative AI capable of creating novel content or designs, the potential for misuse, unintended consequences, or amplification of bias is significant. Responsible innovation is paramount.
So building ethics in from the start, not as an afterthought when something goes wrong. What does that look like in practice for AI innovation?
It means establishing clear ethical guardrails up front for how AI will be used in your innovation processes. What kinds of applications are considered off-limits? What data sources are acceptable to use for training generative models? It means integrating formal ethical impact assessments into the innovation lifecycle, systematically evaluating potential societal impacts, fairness implications, or ethical risks alongside the technical feasibility and business viability of a new AI-driven idea.
Thinking through the consequences beforehand.
Yes. It might involve using cross-functional AI ethics review boards or councils, bringing together technical experts, business leaders, legal counsel, ethicists, maybe even external advisors to review particularly novel or potentially high-risk AI applications before they move forward. Ensuring transparency about AI's role in the innovation process, whereas AI generating ideas versus assisting humans. Maintaining clear accountability, making it explicit that human judgment and responsibility cannot be fully delegated to AI, even when it's playing a significant creative or analytical role. Providing ongoing training for innovators on responsible AI development principles, potential pitfalls. And implementing systems for continuous monitoring and adaptation of your ethical guidelines and governance frameworks as the AI technology itself continues to evolve rapidly.
Responsible innovation has to be absolutely baked into the process, especially when you're dealing with tools this powerful and potentially transformative.
It's not just good practice. The book implies it's essential for building sustainable trust and long-term value with AI-driven innovation.
We've covered an incredible amount of ground today, from the absolute strategic imperative for C-suite leadership in AI to the fundamental building blocks required across strategy, data, tech, and talent. And now we've delved deep into how AI is actively transforming key business functions like strategic sensing, operational efficiency, supply chain, finance, HR, customer experience, and even reinventing the very process and business models of innovation itself. These are definitely not marginal changes we're talking about. They seem like foundational shifts that are creating that widening competitive gap we spoke about at the start.
That's right. They really illustrate how deep and pervasive the impact of AI is becoming across the entire enterprise.
And, if what we've discussed today has resonated with you listening, if you feel that need to truly understand how to navigate this new strategic frontier and build these capabilities in your own organization, it's worth remembering that all of this material, the frameworks, the case studies, the practical guidance, is covered in extensive detail in the book we've been drawing from, Intelligent Advantage. You can find it easily on Amazon by simply searching for the title, Intelligent Advantage by Ryan Beckett. It really does feel like the kind of guide you need to move from just understanding the potential of AI to actually building that tangible intelligent advantage.
It provides a very structured way to think about these complex challenges and opportunities.
Okay, let's move into the final part of our deep dive. The book introduces a really important concept in Chapter 11 that seems central to understanding how competition itself is changing in the digital age. It talks about the rise of algorithmic advantage. What exactly does that mean, and why is it considered so powerful?
Algorithmic advantage. Yeah, it's a key concept. The book defines it essentially as the superior ability of a company to consistently leverage its proprietary algorithms, its unique data assets, and its capacity for continuous learning to systematically outperform competitors over time. It's not just about having some AI models, it's about building a dynamic learning capability that allows you to adapt and improve faster and more effectively than anyone else in your space.
So it's a new source of competitive advantage, like having a better brand or lower costs used to be, but maybe more dynamic?
Exactly. It goes beyond or perhaps significantly amplifies traditional competitive factors like economies of scale, brand recognition, or access to capital. It's about the ability to generate superior insights and outcomes from data continuously.
How does this advantage actually build up? Is it something you achieve once, or does it grow and compound?
That's the crucial part it compounds. The book describes it as a potent, often self-reinforcing cycle, sometimes called a flywheel effect, powered by the interplay of data and algorithms.
A flywheel. Okay, how did that work?
It typically starts with data as fuel. Specifically, acquiring or generating unique proprietary data that competitors cannot easily replicate or access. This could be granular behavioral data from your specific user base interacting with your product, unique operational data from your highly optimized internal processes, or detailed interaction data from your customer service touchpoints. This unique data is the exclusive input, the raw material.
Okay, unique data is the starting point.
This unique data then fuels algorithmic refinement and adaptation. Your machine learning models learn from this proprietary data, becoming progressively more accurate, more personalized, more predictive, and more effective over time. And this isn't a one-off training process. It's an ongoing cycle. Robust MLOps, machine learning operations practices, are key here, facilitating the continuous monitoring of model performance, automated retraining on new data, and rapid deployment of improved model versions.
So your unique data makes your algorithms better, and this is a continuous improvement loop.
Exactly. And better, more refined algorithms lead directly to improved user experience and superior outcomes. Think more relevant product recommendations on an e-commerce site, more efficient route planning in a logistics app, more accurate diagnoses from a medical imaging AI, better fraud detection, whatever the application is. The product or service simply works better because the underlying AI is smarter, fueled by better data.
Makes sense. Better AI, better product.
And that superior experience, in turn, leads to increased user engagement, acquisition, and loyalty. More people want to use your product or service because it delivers more value, it's more efficient, it's more personalized, they use it more often, they stick with it longer, and they tell others about it.
And more users mean?
More users generate even more of that unique proprietary data as they interact with the product or service, which then feeds back into the beginning of the cycle, fueling further algorithmic refinement, leading to an even better user experience, attracting even more users, and so on.
Ah, okay, I see the flywheel now. More users, more unique data, better AI models, better product, more users. That's the self-reinforcing loop. That sounds incredibly powerful, almost like a network effect.
It is very much like a network effect, often called a data network effect. This virtuous cycle where unique data fuels better algorithms, leading to a superior product, which attracts more users, generating more unique data, is the core engine driving algorithmic advantage. Books suggest that companies like Google in search, Amazon in e-commerce, Netflix in streaming their dominance is built in large part on mastering and scaling this data-driven flywheel over many years.
This obviously has profound implications for how companies need to think about competitive strategy, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Really fundamental shifts. The book points out, for instance, that our traditional notion of intellectual property, IP, is being reimagined. In an algorithmic world, sustainable IP isn't just about static patents on a specific algorithm, which might quickly become outdated anyway. It's more about the dynamic combination of the constantly evolving models, the unique data pipelines that feed them, the operational processes that collect and process that data efficiently, and critically, the specialized talent that manages and continuously refines this entire complex system. Your defensible IP becomes this living, learning capability.
So the advantage isn't a static asset you own, but a dynamic capability you operate and improve.
Precisely. Which leads to a fundamental shift from valuing primarily static assets, like factories or patents, to valuing dynamic learning capabilities. In many sectors, the ability of a company to learn from data and adapt its algorithms and products faster than its competitors becomes the single most important competitive competency. The company that can iterate its AI models more quickly, integrate new data signals more effectively, and translate those improvements into better customer outcomes faster will pull ahead and stay ahead.
Learning speed becomes the key differentiator.
Yes. And this often leads, as the book discusses, to winner takes most, or sometimes even winner takes all dynamics in markets where this algorithmic flywheel effect is particularly strong. As the leading company's data and algorithmic advantage compounds over time, it creates increasingly high barriers to entry for new competitors, or makes it incredibly difficult for existing rivals to catch up. Their lead just keeps growing.
So the competitive moat isn't just built from concrete and steel anymore. It's increasingly built from data, algorithms, and the speed of learning.
That's a great way to put it. And consequently, this requires new metrics for competitive assessment and valuation. When analyzing a company's strength or potential, investors and strategists need to look beyond just the traditional financial metrics. They need to find ways to assess factors like the size, quality, and uniqueness of the company's proprietary data assets, the measured accuracy and sophistication of its core AI models compared to benchmarks, the demonstrable speed of its learning cycles, how fast can they actually improve their AI, and its proven ability to translate algorithmic superiority into tangible, personalized customer outcomes and business results.
It really changes how you have to analyze and value a company, especially in tech-driven industries. Building this kind of algorithmic edge sounds incredibly powerful, but also really complex. What are some of the significant challenges companies face in trying to achieve this?
Oh, it's definitely not easy. The book highlights several major challenges. Training data itself remains a huge one. You need vast amounts of high-quality, relevant, and often meticulously labeled data to train sophisticated models effectively. The book emphasizes the critical importance of building efficient data labeling pipelines, the whole process and workflow for accurately tagging or annotating raw data so that AI algorithms can learn the correct patterns from it. This can be incredibly labor-intensive and expensive.
Just getting the data ready for the AI to learn from is a massive operational hurdle for many organizations.
It absolutely is. It often requires significant investment in tools, processes, and sometimes large teams of human labelers or specialized annotation services. The book mentions techniques being developed to help with this, like active learning, where the AI model intelligently identifies the specific data points it's most uncertain about, and requests human labeling only for those, making the process more efficient. Or weak supervision, which uses automated rules, heuristics, or existing knowledge bases to generate large amounts of noisy or imperfect labels automatically, which can then be refined. Or even using synthetic data generation techniques, creating artificial but realistic data using AI itself, especially when real-world data is scarce, sensitive, or heavily regulated.
Trying to overcome the data bottleneck.
Exactly. But even if you have the data, there's the growing threat mentioned in the book of adversarial learning and model manipulation. As AI becomes more critical to business operations and decisions, malicious actors have increasing incentives to actively try to undermine or attack these AI systems.
New kinds of cyber threats specifically targeting the AI itself.
Precisely. The book discusses several types. Things like data poisoning, where attackers deliberately inject carefully crafted malicious data into your training data sets with the goal of corrupting your models, maybe introducing hidden biases or backdoors that cause them to fail in specific situations later on. Or model evasion attacks, where attackers craft specific inputs that are designed to fool a well-trained model into making a mistake, like slightly altering an image, to make an object recognition system misclassify it, perhaps to bypass a security system.
Tricking the AI.
Yes. There's also the risk of model inversion or membership inference attacks, where attackers try to probe a deployed AI model to try and reconstruct sensitive information about the original training data, potentially exposing private or confidential information. Or even attempts to steal proprietary models themselves, either by exploiting system vulnerabilities or by using sophisticated techniques to query a deployed model extensively and then train a copycat model based on its responses.
Wow, a whole new attack surface.
It really is. And the book even touches on the potential for manipulating entire algorithmic ecosystems, where multiple AI agents from different companies might interact, think high-frequency training algorithms, or competing recommendation systems, potentially leading to unforeseen and undesirable systemic behaviors or risks. These are all significant evolving challenges that require robust security postures, specialized defenses against adversarial attacks, and constant vigilance as AI systems become more powerful and interconnected.
Building and defending that algorithmic advantage is clearly a complex, ongoing battle. It definitely reshapes the competitive landscape in profound ways. Okay, let's turn now to how AI impacts decision-making itself, particularly at the highest levels of the organization. The book talks about AI-driven executive decision support in Chapter 10. What's the core message there? Is AI taking over the corner office?
Not quite taking over the corner office. A key message, really emphasized in the book, is that AI is primarily about augmenting human decision-making capabilities, especially for complex strategic choices, not replacing the human decision-maker entirely.
Augmenting, not replacing.
Okay, AI systems excel at certain things humans struggle with. Processing truly massive amounts of data from diverse sources, identifying incredibly complex patterns or correlations hidden within that data that humans would never see, running thousands or millions of simulations to explore possibilities, and quantifying potential outcomes under uncertainty. Human leaders, on the other hand, bring essential elements that AI lacks: deep contextual understanding, domain expertise, intuition built from experience, ethical judgment, creativity, negotiation skills, and ultimately the accountability and responsibility for the final decision and its consequences.
So it's about creating a powerful partnership, leveraging the strengths of both humans and AI.
Precisely. It's about human AI teaming for better decisions. And a core way AI provides this augmentation, according to the book, is through enabling sophisticated scenario exploration. Executives are constantly facing complex, uncertain futures, potential market shifts, disruptive technologies, competitor moves, geopolitical events, regulatory changes. AI can help them model these complex futures under various different assumptions and conditions.
Helping them understand the range of possibilities and potential impacts.
Exactly. Helping them explore the what-ifs much more rigorously and systematically than they could with traditional spreadsheet models or gut feel alone. It allows leaders to understand potential future outcomes, the sensitivity of those outcomes to different key variables or assumptions, and the potential effectiveness of different strategic responses under those varying conditions.
Can you give us a few specific examples from the book of how this AI-driven scenario exploration might work in practice for executive decisions?
Sure. One compelling example is using a digital twin, powered by AI, for enhancing global supply chain resilience, a huge topic for leaders today. Executives can use this virtual replica of their entire supply chain network to simulate the impact of various potential disruptions.
Like a hurricane hitting a key port or a major supplier's factory having a fire.
Exactly. Or a sudden geopolitical trade restriction, or an unexpected spike in demand for a particular product. The AI within the digital twin can model how these disruptions would ripple through the entire network, predicting the bottlenecks, quantifying the likely impact on delivery times, inventory levels, and costs. And crucially, it allows executives to test and evaluate the effectiveness of different potential responses. What if we reroute shipments via air freight here? What if we activate this alternative supplier? What if we pre-position inventory in this region? All in a safe, low-risk virtual environment before committing resources in the real world.
So they can see the likely consequences of different mitigation strategies before the disruption actually happens or as it's unfolding. That's incredibly valuable.
Hugely valuable for building resilience. Another example the book touches on is using AI for strategic market entry or product portfolio optimization decisions. AI models can integrate internal data on costs and capabilities with external market research, detailed competitor analysis, demographic trends, and economic indicators to simulate the potential market share, revenue, and profitability of different potential market entry strategies. For example, which country to enter next with which product mix, or different configurations of the product portfolio under hundreds or even thousands of varying future market conditions.
Helping leaders identify the most promising strategic bets and understand the key assumptions their strategies rely on.
Right. It provides a much more data-rich foundation for those high-stakes strategic choices. And in finance, as we touched on earlier, AI is increasingly used for more sophisticated long-range financial planning and capital allocation. AI models can integrate internal financial data with a wide range of external factors: macroeconomic forecasts, industry trends, commodity price volatility, even geopolitical risk indices, to generate probabilistic financial forecasts, showing a range of potential outcomes and their likelihoods, and to stress test major investment strategies against various potential future economic or market scenarios. This helps CFOs and CEOs make more informed decisions about where to allocate capital for long-term growth while managing risk more effectively.
These simulation and scenario planning capabilities sound incredibly powerful for tackling those really complex, high-stakes strategic decisions where the number of variables and uncertainties is just too much for a human mind to track effectively on its own.
They really augment the leader's ability to reason about uncertain futures. But the book also includes an important caution here related to challenging human bias in decision-making.
Okay, how does AI play into bias?
Well, on the one hand, AI can help challenge human biases. By analyzing data objectively, AI might surface patterns, correlations, or potential inequities that humans might overlook due to their own cognitive biases, like confirmation bias, anchoring bias, etc., or organizational blind spots. It can act as a mirror, sometimes uncomfortably, reflecting patterns in the data that might indicate bias in past decisions or processes.
So AI can potentially help make decisions more objective.
Potentially, yes. However, the book stresses a critical counter-risk: the danger of automation bias.
Automation bias, what's that?
Automation bias is the well-documented tendency for humans to over-rely on or blindly trust the output or recommendations generated by automated systems, including AI, without applying sufficient critical evaluation. Simply because the answer came from a sophisticated computer, people may assume it's correct or objective, even when it might be flawed due to issues with the data, the model, or the algorithm's assumptions.
So AI might help overcome some human biases, but if you're not careful, you can fall into the trap of just trusting the AI too much, introducing a different kind of potential error.
Exactly. It's a real pitfall leaders need to be aware of.
So how does the book suggest leaders mitigate this risk of automation bias when using AI for decision support?
It outlines several key strategies. First and foremost, leaders must demand transparency and explainability from their AI systems and the teams that build them, often referred to as XAI or explainable AI. This means insisting on understanding at an appropriate level how the AI reached a particular recommendation, prediction, or insight, not just accepting the output as a black box answer. What were the key drivers? What data was most influential? What are the model's confidence levels?
Asking why the AI says what it says?
Yes. Second, leaders need to consciously cultivate healthy skepticism, approaching AI-generated outputs with a critical mindset, asking probing questions, challenging the assumptions, and not automatically taking the AI's suggestion at face value, especially for important decisions.
Don't just accept, verify.
All right. Third, it's crucial to triangulate insights. Never rely solely on the AI's output. Cross-reference the AI's findings with insights from human experts, with your own domain knowledge and intuition, and with other sources of data or information. Look for convergence or divergence. If the AI says something counterintuitive, dig deeper to understand why before accepting it.
Combining AI insights with human judgment and other evidence.
Exactly. And fourth, always maintain human oversight and accountability, particularly for high-stakes decisions with significant consequences for people or the business. The ultimate judgment call, the ethical considerations, and the responsibility for the decision must remain with human leaders. The book makes a useful distinction here between human-in-the-loop decision processes.
In-the-loop.
Yeah, where a human must actively review and approve every action or decision suggested by the AI before it's implemented. This is often appropriate for highly sensitive, high-risk, or legally regulated tasks. And human-on-the-loop processes,
Human on the loop.
where the AI system is allowed to operate more autonomously within predefined parameters and safety constraints, but humans actively monitor its performance, review its decisions periodically or by exception, and have the ability to intervene, override, or shut down the system if necessary. This is often more practical for high-volume, lower-risk, or time-sensitive tasks, where reviewing every single action isn't feasible. Choosing the right level of human oversight is key.
So it's really about designing an effective partnership, a collaborative process between the human decision makers and the AI decision support tools.
Absolutely. It's not just about having the AI tool. It's about architecting the workflow around it. The book actually outlines some recommended workflow elements for successful human-AI teaming and decision-making.
Like what?
Things like clearly defining the complementary roles up front. What is the AI best suited for in this process? For example, data processing, pattern identification, scenario generation. What parts require human judgment, context, ethical evaluation, and ultimate responsibility, making those roles explicit. It also emphasizes building in robust validation steps throughout the decision process, not just validating the final output, but validating the input data quality and relevance, validating the AI model itself, its performance, fairness, robustness, validating the specific output or recommendation generated in context, and even validating the potential impact of the decision once implemented.
Checking things at multiple stages.
Right. And finally, implementing effective feedback loops. This includes AI to human feedback, like providing clear explanations, confidence scores, highlighting uncertainties. Human to AI feedback, where human corrections, overrides, or ratings of the AI's suggestions are fed back to help refine and improve the model over time. And also, process feedback, periodically reviewing and improving the overall human-AI decision-making workflow itself based on experience.
It sounds like building a disciplined, well-designed process for how humans and AI interact in making important decisions is actually just as important, maybe even more important, than the sophistication of the AI technology itself.
The book strongly suggests that. The process, the governance, the human factors, they are absolutely key to realizing the true promise of AI-augmented intelligence while effectively managing the inherent risks.
Okay. All of this discussion, really, from the need for executive leadership and strategic alignment through data governance, platform thinking, talent and culture, right up to augmenting executive decision-making. It all powerfully underscores that critical need for leaders themselves to develop that AI fluency we touched on briefly earlier. Chapter 14 in the book is apparently dedicated specifically to this topic, building AI fluency for leadership.
Yes, it's presented as a core requirement for effective leadership today. And AI fluency, as defined in the book, isn't about being able to build an AI model yourself or understand the deepest mathematical complexities. It's about developing an understanding that transcends the superficial buzzwords. An understanding that enables informed decision-making, effective oversight of AI initiatives, confident engagement with technical teams, and ultimately strategic leadership in an increasingly AI-driven world. It's about being an active architect of your organization's AI future, not just a passive observer or a victim of the hype cycle.
So what does the book identify as the core competencies that actually define an AI-fluent leader? What do they need to know and be able to do?
The book breaks it down into a few key areas. Firstly, it comes back to that competency of strategic framing that we discussed earlier in the context of strategic alignment.
Remind us what that involves.
It's the leader's ability to consistently connect potential AI capabilities to tangible business strategy and value creation, to prioritize AI initiatives based on their likely strategic impact and alignment with overall goals, to understand how AI is reshaping the competitive dynamics in their specific industry, and to define clear, business-relevant success metrics for AI projects that go beyond just the technical performance.
Seeing the strategic wood for the technological trees.
Exactly. Secondly, and the book suggests this is perhaps the most practical skill for non-technical leaders, it's about developing the ability and the confidence to ask the right questions of their technical teams, data scientists, or external AI vendors.
What kind of questions?
The book provides several useful categories of questions that fluent leaders should be comfortable asking. Questions about the fundamental purpose and value. What specific business problem are we really trying to solve with this AI? What is the measurable value we expect to create? How will we know if we're successful in business terms? Questions about the data. Do we actually have the necessary data to train this model effectively? Is the data of sufficient quality, completeness, and relevance? Have we assessed it for potential biases? How will the data be governed, secured, and privacy protected?
Getting clarity on the data foundation. Crucial.
Absolutely. Then, questions about the AI model itself and its limitations. Broadly, how does this specific type of AI model work? What are its key assumptions? What are its known limitations or failure modes? Where might it be unreliable or produce unexpected results? How interpretable is it? Can we understand why it makes certain predictions or recommendations? Questions about implementation and operations. What infrastructure changes are needed to deploy and support this? What new skills will our teams need? What changes to existing business processes will be required for adoption? How will the model's performance be monitored and maintained over time in production? The MLOps piece, quote. And finally, critically, questions about ethics and risk. What are the potential societal or ethical implications of using this AI? How are we ensuring fairness and mitigating bias? How is individual privacy being protected? What are the security risks associated with this model or the data it uses? What's our plan if something goes wrong?
Wow. That list of question categories feels like a really practical checklist or guide for any leader trying to oversee AI initiatives responsibly, even without a deep technical background. It empowers them to engage critically and ensure the right things are being considered.
That's exactly the intent described. It gives leaders a framework for constructive, informed dialogue with their technical counterparts. A third core competency outlined is developing a foundational understanding of basic machine learning types, knowing the difference between supervised learning, learning from labeled examples, unsupervised learning, finding patterns in unlabeled data, and reinforcement learning, learning through trial and error with rewards. Having a basic grasp of key AI capabilities relevant to business, like natural language processing, NLP, computer vision, and the increasingly important generative AI.
Just the basics of what they are and what they do?
Right. And understanding some key model trade-offs that often come up. For example, the common tension between a highly accurate but very complex black box model versus a slightly less accurate but more interpretable glass box model, which is better, depends on the context and risks. Or the trade-off between precision, avoiding false positives, and recall, avoiding false negatives in classification tasks. Or the bias variance trade-off in model complexity. Or even practical trade-offs like speed versus cost versus accuracy in model development and deployment. And critically, understanding the inherent limitations of current AI.
Limitations like?
Like the fact that even the most advanced AI today lacks true human-like understanding, common sense reasoning, consciousness, or independent ethical values. Knowing what the technology can realistically achieve today and where its fundamental boundaries still lie is crucial for managing expectations and identifying potential risks.
Being realistic about AI's capabilities and flaws.
Exactly. And finally, building on the importance of asking the right questions and understanding the basics, the book reiterates the critical need for those AI translators we discussed earlier, specifically to help bridge the language barrier that often exists between highly technical data science teams and business leaders or domain experts. Fluent leaders recognize the value of these translator roles and actively support their development or recruitment. They understand that these individuals who possess that hybrid skill set, comfortable in both the business and technical worlds, are essential facilitators for effective communication, alignment, and ultimately successful AI implementation.
It's clear that building this kind of multifaceted AI fluency isn't just a nice-to-have for leaders anymore, or something only for the tech team. The book positions it as a fundamental, ongoing, strategic requirement for effective leadership in this new era of intelligent advantage.
It's presented as perhaps the most critical form of continuous learning and adaptation required for today's executives and boards. Your ability to lead effectively in the future increasingly depends on your ability to understand and strategically leverage these powerful technologies. Adaptability really starts with understanding the landscape you're operating in.
Absolutely. Now, looking ahead, the book doesn't just focus on the present state of AI. It also dedicates chapters towards the end to exploring future trends and the evolving landscape. Can you give us a brief glimpse into some of the future directions it touches upon?
Sure. Briefly, the book points to several important trends shaping the future. One is the rapid development and increasing impact of very large, powerful foundation models like GPT-4 or Google's Gemini, which are trained on massive, diverse data sets and can then be adapted or fine-tuned for a wide variety of downstream tasks with relatively little task-specific data. This is changing the AI development paradigm. Alongside this is the rise of multimodal AI systems that can process, understand, and connect information from multiple different types of data simultaneously, like text, images, audio, video, sensor data. This allows for a much richer, more holistic understanding of the world.
Moving beyond just text or just images.
Right. And the book acknowledges the long-term, complex, and perhaps distant quest for artificial general intelligence, AGI, AI, with human-like cognitive abilities across a wide range of tasks as a potential future horizon that raises profound questions, though it emphasizes focusing on the practical applications and implications of current AI.
What about how AI interacts with other technologies?
That's another key point. Technological convergence is accelerating innovation. The book specifically highlights the convergence of AI with the Internet of Things, IoT, creating what's sometimes called the artificial intelligence of things, AIoT. This involves embedding AI processing capabilities directly into connected devices and sensors at the edge, closer to where data is generated, enabling real-time analysis and autonomous action without constantly sending data back to the cloud. Think smart factories, autonomous vehicles, intelligent infrastructure.
Making the things themselves intelligent.
Exactly. It also briefly touches on the potential, perhaps further out, convergence of AI with quantum computing, creating quantum AI. While still largely theoretical and experimental, quantum computing has the potential to eventually solve certain types of complex optimization problems or accelerate the training of extremely large AI models in ways that are currently intractable for even the most powerful classical supercomputers. This ongoing convergence of powerful technologies is driving exponential innovation, but also leading to increasing systemic complexity that leaders need to learn how to navigate effectively.
More power, but also more complexity to manage. Makes sense. What about the rules and ethics side of the future?
That's covered too, under regulatory futures and ethical shifts. The book acknowledges that the regulatory landscape for AI is evolving very rapidly around the world as societies grapple with the potential risks and benefits. It mentions significant frameworks like the EU AI Act as setting important precedents for risk-based regulation, focusing on requirements for high-risk AI applications related to data quality, transparency, human oversight, and robustness.
So navigating regulation becomes increasingly important.
Absolutely. The book stresses the importance for organizations not just to comply reactively, but to engage actively in policy discussions, to build robust internal governance frameworks that are agile enough to adapt to changing regulations and societal expectations, to foster a pervasive culture of responsible AI development and deployment throughout the organization, and perhaps most importantly, to proactively build trust capital with employees, customers, and the broader public by being transparent, accountable, and demonstrating ethical stewardship in how they use AI.
Proactively addressing the ethical and societal dimensions seems essential for maintaining license to operate and long-term sustainability in the AI age.
The book presents it as non-negotiable for responsible leadership. And finally, in the very last chapter, the book talks about developing executive foresight specifically for navigating this complex, rapidly changing AI-driven environment. How can leaders get better at anticipating what might be coming next?
How does AI help leaders see around corners, so to speak?
It suggests AI can augment traditional strategic foresight tools and processes. For example, enhancing horizon scanning efforts. AI can automate the continuous monitoring of vast, diverse data sources, scientific publications, patent filings, tech news, social media chatter, venture capital investments, competitor job postings to detect weak signals much earlier. These are those subtle, often ambiguous early indicators that might hint at significant future technological shifts, market disruptions, or societal changes long before they become obvious mainstream trends.
Finding the needle in the haystack of future signals.
Right. AI can also aid in developing richer scenario narratives and plans. By analyzing historical data, identifying key driving forces of change, and modeling their potential interactions, AI can help generate a wider range of plausible future scenarios for leaders to consider. It might even help quantify the potential likelihood or impact of different scenarios, moving beyond purely qualitative narratives. And it's crucial for weak signal mapping and analysis, helping strategists not just detect those faint early indicators, but also connect them, map their potential trajectories, and understand their possible implications, turning noise into potential foresight.
So AI can really act as a powerful assistant to leaders and strategy teams in helping them better anticipate potential uncertainties, challenge their assumptions about the future, and proactively prepare the organization to be more resilient and adaptive across multiple possible futures.
It can definitely augment that uniquely human leadership capability, strategic foresight, with powerful data-driven pattern recognition and simulation capabilities, helping leaders navigate the fog of the future a little more clearly.
This has been a truly comprehensive deep dive. We've journeyed all the way from the absolute necessity of executive leadership taking ownership of AI through the fundamental building blocks required in strategy, data, technology, and talent culture. We explored in detail how AI is actively transforming core business functions, from sensing the strategic environment in real time to redefining operational efficiency, optimizing supply chains, augmenting finance and HR, revolutionizing customer experience, and even reinventing the innovation process itself.
Yeah, covering a lot of ground.
We then looked at the emergence of algorithmic advantage as a powerful new source of competitive differentiation, driven by that self-reinforcing data flywheel. We discussed how AI is augmenting, not replacing, executive decision-making through scenario exploration, while also highlighting the critical need to manage automation bias. And we outlined the crucial competencies leaders need to build genuine AI fluency to navigate this new world effectively.
And finally, touching on those future trends foundation models, convergence, regulation, and using AI itself to enhance strategic foresight.
The overwhelming message that comes through from our discussion, drawing heavily on the insights in the book Intelligent Advantage, seems crystal clear. AI is not just another incremental technology wave like cloud or mobile were. It represents a fundamental reshaping of how businesses will operate, compete, strategize, and create value in the 21st century.
It really is positioned as the core engine of that intelligent advantage. And navigating this era successfully demands deliberate, informed, and proactive leadership from the very top, built upon mastering those core foundations of strategy, data, technology, talent, and robust ethical governance. You can't afford to ignore any piece of that puzzle.
And perhaps the final thought for you, our listeners, to mull over is that in this rapidly shifting landscape, continuous learning and adaptation for individuals, for teams, for the entire organization are no longer just good ideas or optional extras. The book strongly implies they are the very essence of survival, relevance, and competitive success in this emerging age of intelligent advantage. The learning curve is steep, and standing still means falling behind fast.
That adaptability, fueled by fluency and foresight, is probably the ultimate differentiator.
We have really only scratched the surface today of the depth, the practical frameworks, and the actionable guidance available in the book itself, Intelligent Advantage. If this discussion has sparked your interest, if you feel the need to go deeper and equip yourself or your organization to lead effectively in the age of AI, we highly recommend getting a copy. You can find Intelligent Advantage by Ryan Beckett easily on Amazon. Just search for the title.
Investing the time to build this understanding for yourself and for your leadership team is arguably one of the most critical strategic investments you can make right now for the future success and resilience of your organization.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into how AI transforms strategy, operations, and leadership itself, drawing these powerful insights from Intelligent Advantage.
It's a fascinating and critical journey for every leader and organization to embark on. Thanks for the discussion.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in to the Leading with AI podcast. We look forward to having you with us again next time.